Hey there YouTube, Phantom Outlaw here coming at you with another gun review. And as you can probably tell from the title of the video, this is about the Canik TP9SF Elite. It's quite a mouthful, but it does explain quite a bit of what we've got going on there. So the Canik TP9SF Elite is a compact size of the regular TP9SF. You'll also notice, I'm not sure how well the light picks this up, the slide color, it's called a tungsten Cerakote. So it's a grays finish, dark gray. It is a nice finish on there. We'll talk about the pros of that here in just a moment. But that is one of the other differences on the pistol between the other versions. Now I'm going to go over the specs of the pistol first, and then we'll get into some of the pros and cons. Alright, so the caliber 9mm, it is 4.19 inches in barrel length. Overall length is 7.28 inches. The height is 5.27 inches. The width is 1.45 inches. The weight is 28.1 ounces. Trigger pull, just a hair over 5 pounds. Magazine capacity is 15. And the sights are Warren Tactical with a fiber optic front sight. Alright, so those are the basic specs of the pistol. A common comparison that seems to come up quite a bit in YouTube is the Glock 19. This is basically the same size as the Glock 19. Now the Glock 19 is about 3.5 ounces lighter, but otherwise the dimensions are very, very similar. So if you're trying to figure out just how big this gun is, it's basically the same size as the Glock 19. Alright, so let's talk about a few of the features as we look at the pistol. We've already talked about a couple of them. Again, the tungsten Cerakote finish over a phosphate steel slide. What does that mean? It means that the finish is more corrosion and scratch resistant. So those are pluses, no doubt about that. You can beat this gun up just a little bit more than usual, I guess, and it'll still come out looking pretty sharp. Another thing you're going to notice when we look at the slide, and it's tough to get the right angle, but on the slide kind of comes up and then pinches in a little bit towards the top here. A little bit of a bevel. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe there you can see a little bit better. Try to get lined up just right for you. So that helps, I guess, reduce the weight a bit by eliminating some of the slide material on top there. That's something they have done. We've got the fiber optic front sight. I'm not sure how you can tell that here. And then the Warren Tactical sight system, which lines up pretty good with everything. If you like the tactical sight system with this, with the black finish and then the fiber optic front, this is definitely a plus. I've heard a lot of good things about this. This will be the first pistol that I've ever owned with that, but so far I'm pretty happy with it. We do have the ambidextrous slide release. This is on the right side of the pistol for a left-handed shooter, and then of course we have it on the left side of the pistol for a right-handed shooter. The magazine release is also swappable. So those are some of the basic features of the pistol. We're going to go over some more details here in just a moment. It does come with a second back strap, so you have two different size back straps, which seems to be pretty common these days with the polymer frame pistols. I'm going to go over a couple of the pros here, or actually all of the pros here, one fell swoop. A big thing about the Canik TP9 series, and that's a pretty big series, and I'll get to that here in just a moment, is the price point. Now these seem to go MSRP right around $450 or so, which is about $100 more. Actually, it's about $50 more than the MSRP on the regular TP9SF. It's about $100 more than the street price. The street price on these seems to be somewhere around the $4 to $4.25 mark. So again, you're looking at about a $50 to $75 bump in price from the other TP9SF, which I do have a video out on that if you check on the page there. The big difference here in price point wise is the Warren Tactical sights, and I guess the tungsten Cerakote finish are the only two real differences as far as price point goes on that. But the price is still pretty appealing. So you're talking about $4.25 for a pistol that in my mind could easily sell for $5 or $5.50 and still sell it just about as well as it does right now. It's right up there with the other striker fire pistols, the M&P, the Glocks, the Springfields. There's a lot of other, the Rugers, the Berettas. You got a lot of other pistols on the market that are very, very similar in terms of features and quality, and then much more expensive. So this is a very appealing part of this, is the price point. All right, the trigger. The trigger on this gun is just absolutely fantastic. Now, it's easy for me to say that. It's really hard for me to really demonstrate that. I'm going to show you here. This is an empty firearm. We've already checked that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do this left-handed because of the camera angle. We're going to pull the trigger, very little take up, and a nice crisp clean break. I'm going to reset it, and watch how little my finger moves. Right there. And then there's the reset. So again, that is a very short and crisp boom. Here we're back in business. So very little travel on the take up. I'm going to be the first one, apparently, no, just joking about that, I guess, but a lot of people that do reviews on this seem to say that this is among the very best of the triggers out there, perhaps even as good or better than the VP9s or the Walther PPQs, even the SIG P320 gets talked about in that vein from time to time. I have shot and I own all of those pistols, and it's a good pistol, there's no doubt. The trigger is very appealing. Is it as good as the best that's out there? I think that's arguable. Perhaps that's a topic for another video sometime, but it is a very, very good trigger. This particular one, the Elite series, is tough to see again, but the drop safety or the trigger safety, I'll pull it back, you can see, but see it's red in there? So the inner trigger on this is red. Does that mean anything? Well, I guess if you like red, you're onto something. But that's just another little difference. But it is a very nice trigger reset. It does have the drop safety. It's very crisp and clean. It's, like I said, just over 5-pound trigger pull. So it's a very, very appealing trigger, no doubt. We've already talked about the tungsten Cerakote finish and the Warren Tactical sights. Those are also big pluses. I won't beat that dead horse any more than I have to, but again, some nice pluses for this pistol. And those are the two things that really have explain the price bump a little bit on that one. The two back straps, the ambidextrous controls, we've already talked about that. So if you're a left-handed shooter, this is going to also be very appealing to you as well. The ergonomics on this pistol are really good. I hear other different people doing reviews talk about the ergos on the Canik series, the TP9 series, and I have to agree with that. It just fits the hand very well. The grip angle is very comfortable. You've heard me talk in other videos about my beef with the Glock pistols. Is the Glock grip angle differs ever so slightly from your standard grip angle, that it takes a little bit of a tweak when you're just naturally point and aim. With this one, you're back where you should be, in my opinion. So I do like that as well. All right, as far as the cons go, and this is kind of funny, I've been beating myself trying to come up with some different things that I have wrong with it. The only real beef I have with this pistol is the weight. It is about 4 ounces or so heavier than a Glock 19, which puts it probably 2 or 3 ounces heavier than many of the other compact size of the other brands. Part of that weight may be the slide, part of it may be the finish. I'm not sure about that. I'm not the expert on that, but there is a couple of extra ounces there. Of course, that does help with the muzzle flip and recoil. So it's a small trade-off. But that's the only thing I could really come up with as far as the beef. Now, if you look at some other videos on YouTube, you will see some people that are not happy with their Elite. They're having some issues with feeding. They're having some issues with erratic ejection, things along those lines. Those seem to be more isolated than widespread. I have not experienced that with this pistol yet. Small sample size, just a few hundred rounds through it, but I haven't come across those same issues. Hey there, YouTube. This is Phantom Outlaw coming at you with another review. As you can probably tell from the headline of this review, we are talking today about the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield 45. Alright, so for many of you, you're already very much aware that this gun was coming out. It's not brand new exactly. It's been out for about, I guess, a month and a half or so now. But you're not finding it in too many places just yet. Let me go ahead and show you a quick picture of it here. As we look at this, you're going to see some differences throughout the grip itself as far as the texture and then the overall size. I do have some of the other shields here to go ahead and show you just so we can talk about the comparisons here in just a moment. We're going to talk about them first, as I normally do. We're going to go over some of the specs, we're going to go over some of the stats, and then we'll get into the actual review itself. So let's talk about the actual dimensions of the gun. I'm going to reference the size of the 45, and then I'll reference also the size of the 9 and 40, because those two are the same, and then we can reference and identify the differences. First of all, the Shield 45 obviously is a 45 ACP caliber. The length is 6.45 inches. That's compared to the other Shield of 6.1. So overall, you're 0.34 inches longer. The height, 4.88, and that's with a flush magazine versus 4.6. So you're 0.28 inches taller. The width on the 45 is 0.99, whereas on the 9 and 40, it is 0.95. So not much difference there, 4/100ths of an inch. The barrel length on the 45, 3.3 inches. Barrel length on the 9 and 40, 3.1 inches. So slightly longer barrel, 0.2 inches longer. They're both striker fire actions. Alright, so as far as magazine capacity, I'm going to give a tip of the cap to Smith & Wesson on this one. With the Shield 9, you have 7 and 8, depending if you have the flush mount or the extended magazine. With the 40 caliber, you have 6 or 7. So one would think if you're going to continue that same trend with the 45 that you would be looking at a capacity of 5 and 6. However, Smith did a great job with the engineering of this, and the fact that the 45 is just slightly larger. The magazine capacity of the 45 is in fact the same as it is on the 40. It is 6 and 7 depending which magazine you go with. So I want to give a tip of the hat, like I said, to Smith & Wesson on that one. Alright, the weight. A little bit of discrepancy on this. According to Smith & Wesson, it weighs 20.5 ounces empty. I don't have a scale. I have my hands. That's about all I've got for that. But I've read a number of other reviews where people seem to indicate that their empty weight is about 22 ounces. Not sure what the difference is. I'm not sure if there's a discrepancy with counting a magazine or not. I don't remember that being the issue. However, call it between 20 and 22 ounces empty and you get an idea for the weight. With the 9mm, it is 19 ounces. So you've got a couple of ounces, about 2.5 to 3 ounces difference in weight. Alright, another little difference in these two. With the previous shields, the finish on the slide and the barrel was called Black 68 HRC. I guess that's the hardest in the Rockwell scale. I'm not sure. They used to also call it Melanite finish, and I'm not sure if there's a difference in other than the name with it, but the finish on the 45 is now called Stainless Steel Armornite finish. I tell you, they look the same, so I'm not sure if there's any, maybe just a name change or a slightly different application in the chemical process. I really don't have that answer, but that is what Smith & Wesson is calling the finish. Again, that's Stainless Steel Armornite finish. It's kind of a mouthful. The frame is polymer on the 45 as it was on the 9 and the 40. Alright, so those are the specs or the stats. So we've talked about what all that means in terms of numbers. Now let's actually talk about what it means in terms of the actual gun itself. When it comes to the 45, what we've got here is a slightly larger gun. We've already talked about you have a slight difference in the width. There's also a slight difference in the height and the length. Where that comes into play with this slightly taller height, the grip is able to hold the same amount of rounds as the 40 caliber does, which is a nice step up from what people anticipated being 5 and 6 on this one compared to the way the progression had gone previously. So what also that makes a difference is, I'm going to do this left-handed to show you, because the grip is slightly longer, this is the flush mount grip we've got in here. When I hold this gun, my pinky just barely has a spot to rest. Whereas with the previous shields, no way that was going to happen. Again, we're talking about just a 1/4 of an inch or so difference here, but that makes a big difference in terms of what is able to get on the gun itself. So I'm able to get a fairly comfortable grip with the flush mount magazine. Now we'll go ahead and put on the extended one. With the extended magazine, you're going to see that there is plenty of room down here. So again, very comfortable with the extended magazine, as it was with the Shield 9 and 40. But as we go back to the flush magazine, there is still room for the pinky, albeit barely, but there is still space down there. One other difference that brings up when we talk about these magazines, this is the extended magazine for the 45. I'm not sure what you can see, but this is all one piece down here. When we look at the same magazine for the previous generation, you can see here it was 2 different pieces, and where that came into issues from time to time, I never experienced it, but I also have a couple different scenarios here. What came into happening sometimes, if this collar got pushed up just ever so slightly, I'm going to exaggerate so you can see the gap right here. When you put it into your gun, if you didn't ram it home, it may not seat all the way, so that could be a problem. Or if you got it maybe just barely seated right here in the front, it could pinch your hand when you hold it. Not the end of the world, but certainly uncomfortable. So the original Shield magazine with the extended magazines, there's 2 different pieces. The new one with the 45, it is 1 piece. So again, nice job with Smith & Wesson on that. I mentioned I had a couple alternatives. One of the other things you could do to this magazine with the old generation is you could glue this to this piece. However, then you're going to have to take it apart to be a real bear. So that's not recommended. Talon Grips offers grip tape that goes around this way, which kind of holds the top and the bottom together. I have that on one of my other magazines. I've never had any issues with that one or this one, to be honest with you, but you do have a choice.